What's up, fellas? How's it going? It's a good Monday, April 25th. And ladies, not just fellas. This is episode 51 of the Sicko Sports Podcast. As always, thank you for being here. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe and be a friend. Tell a friend and go ahead and share this with somebody that you know, at least one person. But welcome back. I've been watching this. I can't get it out of my head. I keep watching this dude that keeps popping up on Facebook. You know how Facebook's algorithm is. As soon as you watch one person's video, it's nonstop popping up. It's just like, I don't know if he's from Louisiana, but he is from the South for sure. And he just has he's a character, man. And he has this thing that he keeps saying, and he's like, put that on a cracker, dude. And I can't stop fucking saying that for every reason. I'm like, put that on a cracker, dude. He does like these videos, these crawfish broil videos, and he has like his own seasoning and stuff, but he's a character. I'm sure he's making a fucking killing right now because his videos go viral as shit. But anyway, welcome back. We have a lot to catch up on. NBA playoffs are in full swing, so it's going to be a lot of NBA each episode until the NBA playoffs is over. But we have a lot to cover as far as the UFC goes. 2 UFC Fight Nights that we have to recap, along with another fight night that's taking place this upcoming Saturday between Rob Font and Chito Vera, which is it's really underrated to me. But a little bit of that, a little bit of NBA talk. But as always, thank you guys for being here. So let's jump straight into today's episode with a little bit of a recap of the Vicente Luque and Belal Muhammad fight night that took place. It was a really good fight. In terms of being tactical, I know a lot of people are upset with Belal Muhammad and they're calling him the decision king and his fights are boring, and I agree. I'm not saying I disagree. I'm not saying his fights are exciting in any way, shape, or form, but at the end of the day, guys, we have to understand what this is. I've been saying it time and time again. I made my point with Colby Covington and saying, hey, we have to understand that the character that is Colby Covington, this persona that he has created, was because the UFC can't decide whether they want to be a sport or an entertainment company. Now, granted, every sport needs to be entertaining, but it's different. In the NBA, they don't need Giannis Antetokounmpo to speak perfect English. He could still be the biggest star in the world. They don't need any guys to cut promos or be great on the mic. They don't need them to have their own YouTube channel. They don't need them to have an X amount of followers on Instagram, or they don't need any of that. They don't need guys to create their own TikToks to create buzz. They don't need any of those things. They just need you to be the best basketball player in the world. And if you're the best basketball player in the world, they will market you and you will always have a place there. And you could be the highest paid player in the NBA. Now, yes, the LeBron James and these guys are remarkable. They'll make money outside of the NBA. But I'm talking about the biggest NBA contracts. You just have to be the best player. You just have to be able to be the max player where your team wants to pay you the max, especially if you get drafted by that team. They could give you a super max deal. You get what I'm saying. In the MMA world, especially in the UFC, it doesn't quite work that way. You don't become the biggest, the best, highest paid athlete in the UFC by being the best. It's quite opposite, actually. You have to do it by being the most entertaining, by bringing in the most crowd. You're almost like a comedian in a sense. You're an entertainer. And that's the reason why Colby Covington, Colby Covington was going to be cut after wins. He was winning in the UFC, and the UFC said that they were going to cut him. The UFC was threatening him to cut him with winning. They said he's too boring. Your fight's too boring. You're not great on the mic. You're not creating a lot of buzz. People aren't really tuning in to watch you. So then this character of, Colby Covington, this super right-wing, pro-Trump, MAGA hat, all the just toxicity that he spews out against each opponent and all the nicknames and stuff, that all got created from that. There's one thing that Jorge Masvidal said in the pre-fight interviews that really stuck with me, and I'm like, man, I really understood Colby Covington more. He said he remembers Colby being on the phone with his father, having fights with his dad on the phone, saying, "You don't understand. You don't know what you're talking about. I have to do this." Where his dad was telling him, "Son, you don't have to do this. You don't have to act the way you're acting. You don't have to say the stuff you're saying. Why are you doing this?" And he's like, "Shut up. You don't understand. I have to do this." It created this persona, but it more so created this need to, hey, I have to sacrifice relationships in order to get to what I want to get to. And the UFC forces you to do that. So when I look at someone like Bilal Muhammad, it goes back to that situation. Do we want the UFC to just operate as a sport where winning is king? As long as you're winning, that's what matters? Or are we going to treat the UFC like an entertainment company where just because you win doesn't mean you're going to get anything from it? You have to win a way that wins over the crowd. You have to win a way that goes viral and people want to watch you and people talk about you, and you have to have a way about you on the mic, on social media, which Bilal Muhammad does well enough to be a little bit on the cringier side. He's active enough on social media, very active on Twitter. So he does enough to keep his name there. It's a lot of hatred. It's a lot of people hating on Bilal Muhammad, but he does enough to make sure that he stays relevant. So shout out to him. But a huge fight against Vicente Luque. A lot of people thought Luque was going to win. If you remember, this is actually their second fight. Vicente Luque knocked him out in their first meeting. So it was really interesting to see what was going to happen in that scenario. A lot of people just, if somebody knocks somebody out, they're going to be the favorite. People are going to think it's going to be the same thing. But remember, if you're the one that gets knocked out, you're the one that has the game plan change. You're the one now that gets to make the adjustments, where the other guy, why not do the same thing I did? Why not fight the way I fought last time? Why not try to set up the punch that I set up last time? And that was pretty clear and evident. And Luque had his moments for sure. But Bilal Muhammad just does enough on the takedowns. And that was the one impressive thing I will give Bilal Muhammad a lot of credit for. As much as we can say Bilal is boring or whatever, I get it. But taking down Vicente Luque is not something that is easy to do. And Bilal Muhammad made it look pretty easy to take Vicente Luque down. And that is very difficult to do. So shout out to Bilal. Gets another win, a huge win, something that's going to put him closer to the title shot that he wants. Another great fight in that one was Miguel Baeza and Andre Fialho. Andre Fialho wins by KO, 4 minutes, 39 seconds. He was on point. He looked incredible in that fight. It was a really good knockout. If you didn't have a chance to go watch it, go back and watch it. I'm not going to stay on this card too much. I just wanted to cover the Vicente Luque and Bilal Muhammad fight. Nothing really Drakkar close. Been keeping a close eye on him, no pun intended. But he gets a TKO in the second round over Brandon Jenkins. It was a big fight for him. Chris Barnett loses to Martin Buday. Buday just kind of clinch work, kept him up against the fence, made it a really ugly, again, like people want to say, a boring fight. Chris Barnett wasn't really able to throw off. If you remember Chris Barnett, he was the heavyweight, short dude, probably my height, big dude, spinning back kick in his last victory. He does a front flip to his butt. He's an entertaining guy. Buday didn't let him get off any of those things. Jordan Leavitt with another split decision win over Trey Ogden. And then he had a really interesting post-fight dance. He's, I think, the only male-wise, the only openly gay male UFC fighter. And he does like this split. He owns it, man. He owns it, and shout out to him. Again, if this is an entertainment company, do what you got to do, man. Do what you got to do, brother. Go out there and make it happen. And he does the splits post-fight when he wins. This time, not only does he do the splits, comes up with a twerk at the commentators dying. So shout out to him for another good win. But not going to go over this card a whole bunch. Just wanted to stay on the topic of Bilal Muhammad and Vicente Luque, and then what would be next for Bilal Muhammad. This is obviously the 170-pound division. This is where Kamaru Usman is. This is the same division that just had Khamzat Chimaev and Gilbert Burns fight. So maybe you see a Gilbert Burns Bilal Muhammad fight. Bilal still wants that rematch with Leon Edwards where he got his eye poked and it was a no contest. So a lot of opportunity here for Bilal Muhammad. I want to see where he's at in the rankings. Obviously they've been updated since this fight because this happened 2 weeks ago or 2 weekends ago. So I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything in that's the pound for pound. Okay, so he is currently number 5. He moved up. Vicente Luque and him just switched, so they still have Bilal Muhammad behind Gilbert Burns, behind Khamzat, behind Leon Edwards, behind Colby. So Bilal can't fight anybody else. He can't fight Wonder Boy, Jorge. He can't fight any of these guys. If I'm Bilal and if I'm Bilal's manager, I have to fight one of the other dudes next, whether that is one of the guys above him, whether that's Gilbert Burns, whether that's Khamzat, Leon Edwards, Colby Covington, Khamzat and Colby. That one looks like that's what's going to make. We know Leon and Kamaru Usman are going to fight depending on Kamaru's hand and his surgery and how those things are going. I'd be very interested to see what they do if Kamaru Usman can't go. Like, Colby's had 2 straight fights against Kamaru. Close fights. So does that put him, and he's the number 1 ranked guy. So if Kamaru Usman can't fight for some time and the UFC goes the route of an interim title, does that mean it would be Colby and Leon? Makes the most sense, right? 1 and 2. But Colby's coming off of back-to-back losses. Now, granted, they're both to Kamaru Usman, but he's still coming off of back-to-back losses. So would you then give him an interim title fight against Leon? Because if he wins, then you have already Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington 3. And then what happens with Khamzat? Maybe you do Khamzat and Muhammad, which would be a nightmare of a matchup for Bilal Muhammad. If your goal is to get takedown, decision wins, drag him out, Khamzat's not the guy to fight, especially with the reach advantage that he's going to have. I believe he has a huge stand-up advantage, and you're not going to be able to take Khamzat down. So, terrible fight for Bilal Muhammad. I think he would want to stay away from there. Gilbert Burns makes sense. Bilal Muhammad and Gilbert Burns makes a lot of sense. I know Gilbert Burns came off of a loss, but it was a fight that a lot of people thought he won against Khamzat. And it moves you up another spot in the ranking. It moves you up closer. And at this point, when Colby's not really being active, he doesn't have anything drawn. Where Leon's waiting for Kamaru Usman to see if he's healthy and when their fight date is going to get set. And Khamzat Chimaev is sitting here looking for someone to fight. You want to be the most active right now, right? The early bird gets the worm here. So if you're Bilal Muhammad, I'm like, hey, Gilbert, let's when are we running it? I won. You come off of a tough fight. You're ranked ahead of me. When are we going to make this happen? Let's set it up with Gilbert Burns. Let me jump at least one more spot higher. And if these guys aren't fighting and I'm the one that's being active, if there's an interim shot that gets made, that's my case. Because the thing with Bilal Muhammad is, like I said, he doesn't have that character. He doesn't have that ability to be on the mic and to be so liked that he gets pushed, right? Very opposite of Conor McGregor. There's a reason why Conor's name continues to pop up in the 170-pound division for a title fight with Kamaru Usman. It makes 0 sense. There is no reason on God's green earth why Conor McGregor would get a title fight against Kamaru Usman right now. 0 cents. There is no case for it except for one. The people just like him. He just has enough of a fan base. It's the biggest draw. When it comes to anything inside the octagon, he hasn't won a fight in a very long time. He's coming off of a broken ankle, a broken leg. You can't really make a case that why that would work. But Usman's going to want it. Kamaru's going to want it more than he wants any other fight. If there's one fight Kamaru Usman wants right now for his next title defense, it's Conor McGregor. Because I could take him down. He hasn't won a fight in forever. And I get paid the most? You're telling me I'm going to get paid more than I've ever gotten paid before in my life? For the easiest fight I've had in the last few years? Sign me up. What's that Conor McGregor gif? Sign me up. That's exactly what Kamaru Usman's going to think. Why the hell not? Why would I want to fight Leon Edwards and not fight Conor McGregor? That is a very opposite for Bilal Muhammad. Bilal Muhammad does not have those luxuries. He has to do it by being active. He has to make his case not to the fan base, because the fan base isn't going to make a case for him. He has to make his own case to the UFC, to Dana White, and the matchmakers up top to say, hey, I'm the one that's active. I'm the one that took on Vicente Luque. I'm the one that wants to take on Gilbert Burns. I'm the one trying to be active. If he can win those fights, if he can beat Gilbert Burns, then he can be the guy that says, if there's an interim title fight, why not me and Leon for the rematch? Because I got my eye poked. It was a no contest. There's a case to be made here for Bilal. He can make that case for himself, And that way you can still set up a Khamzat Colby. Whoever wins that fight is going to fight Usman, but then whoever wins Colby and Khamzat is going to be the next in line for a title shot, which Kamaru Usman, this also going to him, segueing to Kamaru Usman in his reign. If he fights, let's say there's an interim between Leon and Bilal Muhammad, and he fights the winner and has another title defense against them. And then he fights the winner of Colby and Khamzat and has another title defense against him. He's very close. Some people already say that he's the greatest 170 of all time. If he stacks up another 2 or 3 title defenses, people are going to quickly start talking about Kamaru Usman as the greatest, not 170 pounder, not the best welterweight of all time. They're going to start talking about him in terms of the GOAT. They're going to start talking about him being the greatest of all time because he's taken on these challenges. I don't know how much more time Kamaru Usman has. I don't see him having another 4 or 5 title defenses. I really don't. I think the way he's talking and how he wants to, he's trying really, really hard to set up a big payday fight in boxing against Canelo Alvarez. You can see where he wants to navigate the rest of his career. He's thinking in his mind a couple more title defenses, some way, somehow try to slide my way into this boxing thing, get a huge payday there, enough so I can ride off into the sunset. I'm not going to be Conor. I'm not going to have this $100 million payday and for some odd reason continue to fight in the UFC. I want to get that big cash out, that thing I deserve. If I lose, I don't care. And then I'm riding off into the sunset and you'll never see me compete in the UFC again. I really think that is what Kamaru Usman is going to do. And it would be a smart idea. But again, 2 more title defenses for Kamaru Usman is what I see from him. And if those 2 are against Leon Edwards and Khamzat Chimaev, you got to start talking about him as one of the greatest of all time. If you're not already, you might already be saying that about him. But if he gets those 2, probably the best middleweight, welterweight of all time, and then some real conversation for being the absolute GOAT. Transitioning over from that would be the most recent fight night, which was Lamos versus Andraj. Clash of 2 really good fighters in the women's division. I believe this happened at 115. I think Andraj dropped back down for this fight. Her last fight was at 125. I know she fought Shevchenko not too long ago, lost that fight. She's back down to 115, which I think is smart for her. She has so much power that it just makes a lot of sense for you to move back down and really have that strength and power advantage at a lower weight class. So she's moving back down if this thing ever loads. So she moved back down against Lamos, who is an incredible striker. And we saw that early on in the fight. Again, another fight night. Let me just recap the card, make sure I don't miss anything crazy. Man, this thing is moving slowly. And I hope you guys don't hear too much of what's going on. There's a garbage truck outside that I can hear. It's raining really hard outside, so I hope that stuff is not messing up the audio. I doubt that it is. Claudio Buday beat Clay Guida by submission. Crazy leg lock he got on him. The transition to it was insanely quick. He was just setting up submissions over and over. This is a terrible matchup for Clay Guida. I don't really know Claudio's resume that well, I'm gonna be honest. I knew he was on, I think, a 5-fight win streak. I knew he was a submission specialist. So it was a tough fight for Clay Guida, who isn't going to stand outside and pick you apart. He's going to get into that guard. He's going to shoot. He's a wrestler. And you saw that Claudio just had such an advantage in terms of, just a simple jiu-jitsu match. Once it got onto the floor and when it became a grappling match, you saw the advantage that Claudio had. It was just stringing together submission attempt after submission attempt. And Clay Guida finally I wouldn't even call it really a mistake. It was a mistake. He got caught. But the way he transitioned to it was so freaking nasty. You can't really blame him too much there. Macy Barber, decision win against Montana De La Rosa. Macy Barber, there's somebody. She's kind of like the Bilal Muhammad of the female division. Like, people just do not rock with Macy Barber. It's going to happen like that when a lot of people feel like she kind of robbed Miranda Maverick on her last fight. A lot of people had Miranda Maverick winning that fight. Macy Barber won it by decision. But again, another one of those people who, like, she's not knocking girls out. Her hands aren't crazy good. She's a wrestler, but you're not setting up submission attempts. You're not finishing people when you're on the ground. It's kind of more of a positional wrestler, and people hate positional wrestlers in the UFC because, let's be honest, it's probably the most boring way to win by control time. Control time is the most boring way to win. All right, we want to see people win off of damage. So that was a good one. Charles Jourdain, Lando Venata, really good fight. I thought it was going to end pretty early. I didn't see this fight going 3 rounds. It didn't. Charles Jourdain with a really good first round submission. I believe it was a guillotine that he got locked in. It started off as kind of a one-arm guillotine, and then he finally was able to switch it up. The funniest part of that fight is the fact that when he's blocking up that guillotine and Lando Venata starting to tap, Charles Jourdain has his legs obviously wrapped around him to hold him into place, but he keeps shoving Venata's shorts down until the point where he finally taps out and his shorts are just completely off of his ass. Like, he's just in his underwear. His shorts are down to his knees. So not only do you tap out, you have to get up and pull your shorts up. It's a tough night for Lando Venata, but a good fight. He did his thing, landed a couple big shots. And then, like I said, Amanda Lamos and Jessica Andraj, super impressed. It's weird when you see a first round submission, a first round finish, and still give credit to the opposer. Amanda Lamos, even though she lost, even though, hey, you can't get submitted on a standing triangle. You can't be the first of something. You can't be that much overpowered by someone where they can get you in a standing arm triangle and finish you that way. You can't let that happen. But on the feet, Amanda Lamos was very, very impressive. Jessica Andrade had a really, really hard time with her. Amanda Lemos started opening up. She started finding her distance. She was landing some good shots, power in her hands, man. And Jessica Andrade just does what she continues to do. She continues to look like that person who, whether you're at 115 or whether we're looking at her 125, she could be the number one in each division. She could very well be the best in each division. Now, obviously, someone like Zhang Weili is going to have something to say about it. But, she could very well beat these girls. She just has that type of power. We've seen it we saw it with Rose Namajunas in their fight where, Jessica Andrade fought her twice. And the first fight, Rose was piecing her up. Rose looked like she was the far superior fighter. She was more technical. She was better on the feet by far. And then Jessica Andrade just gets to her body, lifts her up, slams her on her head, knocks her out, beats her that way. And then the second fight, same thing. Rose is far superior to the fighter, just picking her apart in the stand-up. In the third round, Andrade blitzes, lands a couple big shots. One big shot, busts her eye open, busts her nose open. She has to get surgery on her nose. Still loses that fight, but it's like you see that puncher's stance that Jessica Andrade has, which is very, very rare in the female class, especially at 115 pounds, where she can just turn somebody's lights off. She can really if she just gets to your body one time, lands one shot, it could change the direction of the fight, even though she's losing the entire fight. So she's always going to be there, man. And it sucks for Jessica Andrade because are you good enough to beat Rose? You kind of have a puncher's chance, but no one's going to make you the favorite. No one's going to think that you're a better fighter than Rose Namajunas. You had Valentina Shevchenko and you lost that one you got dominated. So it's one of those situations where she's just going to kind of be a gatekeeper, and she's going to continuously fight these girls that are trying to get to that point. And if she just keeps winning and winning, she's going to get these title shots. And it's like, are you good enough? We're kind of waiting for you to get that lucky shot or get that lucky punch. And nobody really wants to bank on that, right? You can't bank on a one shot. You can't bank on if I can just get you one time. You can't bank on it. But it was a really good fight there. Both girls looked impressive. Amanda Lemos did look really impressive on the feet. I'm really looking forward. I'm looking forward to her next fight to see who she draws next. And for Jessica Andrade, I'm not sure what's next for her. I don't know which route this is going to go. Let me see the rankings for that division as well. I believe she came in unranked because she was moving up to 125. I don't remember seeing a ranking on her name. I saw it on Lamos, which I think she was ranked like 10th, somewhere around there. So I don't know what they're gonna have her do next. So I'm looking for Jessica Andraj here. I'm not seeing her. Zhang Wei Li, Carlos Esparza, Marina Rodriguez, Mackenzie Dern. Amanda Hebus. Amanda Hebus at 9 or 8. Okay. So Amanda Lamos was 10. So they haven't updated it. I don't know if Amanda Lamos is going to drop off. But I don't see Jessica Andrade for whatever reason. I don't know why she would fall. I wouldn't think that she completely took her name out of 150 pounds or she completely moved over. She's still ranked number 1 in the 125 pound in the flyweight division where Shevchenko is. So, if she's going to stay at strawweight, you would assume that she'd be in the top 5, and then you give her somebody else. But again, like, Zhang Wei Li has her fight book now, the rematch, which I think, yeah, she's not even in the rankings either. Yeah, so the rankings right now in the women's division is all over the place. It's all over the place, but you would expect her to be in the top 5. Carlos Esparza, Rose Namajunas, Zhang Wei Li's book. So maybe her and Marina Rodriguez, maybe her and Mackenzie Dern, which, again, 2 winnable fights for Jessica Andrade. If Mackenzie Dern has a hard time getting her down, Andrade could legitimately knock Mackenzie Dern out. Marina Rodriguez would be a tougher fight, but it was very similar to the Amanda Lemos fight, where if she stays on the outside and gets picked apart, it's going to be a rough night for her. But if she can get to her body, if she can get one of those takedowns, or if she can just land one shot to change the fight, again, a very winnable fight. And then you're back to fighting Rose for a third time, where she looked like the superior fighter on the first 2. So tough to call for Jessica Andrade and what she's going to do. I don't know if she's going to move back up to 125. If I was her, 115 is where it's at. I don't know if that weight cut is terrible. It doesn't look terrible. You still look to be in good shape. She's a girl who's never really been out of shape. You've never seen Jessica Andrade's body change figures, or, she's always kind of looked the same, whether it's 115 or 125. Her body type has always looked, you can tell that she puts in the work, even when she doesn't have a fight booked. And then changing over, I want to stay in the UFC, but just a small topic. Has nothing to do with an actual fight that took place, but it was a backstage incident that I just thought was hilarious between Juaquin Buckley, who's a current middleweight fighter, taking his shot at Darren Till, not a literal shot, but basically sliding into the DMs. Juaquin Buckley, and it's on Khamzat Chimaev's YouTube channel. If you haven't seen it, his YouTube channel is amazing. Khamzat Chimaev has his own YouTube channel, and it is incredible. And they just put out, I think the most recent video is almost like a full freaking movie. It's an hour long. It is behind the scenes. It's the weight cut and the behind the scenes of like the post-fight interview, the ceremonial weigh-ins, and then behind the scenes of the fight night itself. It is incredibly done. I don't know who Khamzat has doing this stuff. I don't know who his like producer is or what he's paying them. I'm assuming it's coming out of his pocket, all of these videos and whoever he has, but the visual, the audio, the cuts, the edits, like, it is professionally done. It is incredible. The music that they had, the way they made you feel, that weight cut, a large portion of this video is just him cutting the weight, which was brutal. And it's not to say that, like, he shouldn't be fighting at 170. He should fight at 185. I don't know. Where he should be fighting. The weight cut looked tough, but the weight cut's tough for a lot of people. We've seen Jorge Masvidal go through this. Habib, it's well known. There's, stories and videos of Habib just where he can't even get up. They literally have to lift him and drag his body to the hot tub and drag his body onto the mat and put the towels on him. He can't even move, and he's just laying there, you know what I mean, looking like he's on his deathbed. So I don't know if that's something that Khamzat can continue to do or not. It looked tough, but weight cuts are tough for a lot of people, man. There's very few fighters in this world that have easy weight cuts. If you get the full behind the scenes, if you have a legit production crew and put together an hour-long movie for everybody's weight cut, you'll see that that's not that abnormal. It looks terrible, but it's not that abnormal, which leads to a different discussion about how the weight cut process in the UFC needs to change, and you need to add more weight classes or do hydration tests and stuff. I get all that. But The video itself, freaking awesome. And in the video is a clip. It's a little part of Juaquin Buckley. Let me actually, I have it here. Let me find it. It's pretty hilarious. It's a pretty funny video of Juaquin Buckley walking up to Darren Till. And like I said, Juaquin Buckley's a guy, he 185 pounds. He's in the same weight class as Darren Till. But he's a guy who hasn't really done too much. I believe 6 fights in the UFC. His first fight in the UFC was, his debut was against Kevin Holland, which is a tough debut considering we know where Kevin Holland is now. And we've seen him do some pretty cool things. He got knocked out by Kevin Holland in the first round of that fight. In his debut, goes on, very next fight, he has one of the most viral knockouts the UFC has ever seen. It was a spinning back kick, but set up in a crazy way. He throws a kick, gets the kick caught against Impa Kasanganay. Impa's holding his foot. As he's holding it, he decides to jump and spin, kick him with the other foot, and just clean knocks him out. Again, one of the most viral knockouts you'll ever see. Gets another win after that. Then he gets knocked out himself by Alessio Di Chirico in the first round, I believe, as well. Loses that fight, then wins 2 more in a row, gets a knockout. Then his last win was a decision win. I believe it was a split decision win. So he has 4. He's 4-2 in the UFC. He's been knocked out twice. His last fight was a split decision win. So the fact that he's calling out Darren Till is a long shot. But you got to take your shots, man. To me, that's just, it's like him sliding into the DMs. You know, he's just taking his shot. It's probably not going to happen. I'm probably not going to get Darren Till. But who knows? If I can ruffle enough feathers, if I can get Darren Till to want this fight, maybe I can make it happen. You know, maybe it could work. Or at the very least, I'm in his head. He at least knows me. And if I can win a few, maybe I could get that fight. So, no, you know, nothing wrong with what Juaquin Buckley did. Time and place is kind of weird. You don't have a fight coming up. It wasn't kind of organic between the two where it's just like a weird run. And it was like, hey, I'm going to go up to this guy and I'm going to try to shoot my shot, essentially, at trying to get a fight with him. And let me pull it up here. Obviously, if you're listening on Spotify, you're not going to be able to watch it, but you can at least see it. Let me pull this up.
Don't worry about him. But you, though, I need you. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying, though, you be on camera. You better be recording. Come on, fight in July. July? Let's fight in July. Yeah. Come on, let's go. London? Don't say that. I'm saying.
So, see, he's asking him. That's the other thing, is he knew the camera was there. He knows exactly what he's doing. Again, this is him shooting his shot. This is him very meticulously setting up. He goes up. The camera's there. Are you recording? You better be recording. You know what I mean? I can't. He said something quick to Khamzat. I can't fight. He's fighting at 170 now, so I don't know about him. But you're 185. I'm 185. Let's do something. Darren Till takes the bait, right? Darren Till's not going to back down. He takes the bait. You want to fight in July? Let's do something in July. Darren Till knows he's not fighting him in July. But he's like, hey, you want to fight in July? Let's fight in July.
Let's get money. Let's get money, bro.
That's the funniest part of the video is Khamzat saying, who's that guy? And Darren Till legit. And I honestly don't think either one of them know who Juaquin Buckley is. I really don't. Maybe they've seen him, but like you would have to assume that they both watch a lot of UFC and they watch prelims and I don't think they do. Most UFC fighters don't sit there and watch all the prelims and all those things. Like most guys don't. They really don't. They're not huge fans. They're fans of themselves. You know what I mean? They have to be. Like, I don't care what these guys are doing. I need to do what I need to do. Maybe I'll watch some main events. I'll watch the guys, you know, ranked in the top 5 with me. I'll watch those guys. I'll game plan for those. But Juaquin Buckley, I really don't think they knew who he was. So when Khamzat said, who is that guy? I think that was legit. And the funniest thing is when Darren Till said, I don't know. I think he legitimately had no fucking clue who he just agreed to fight. So, and that was the funniest shit. Is like Darren Till is like, yeah, I don't know, whatever. Darren Till knows this game. Hey, you're calling me out. I'm never gonna back down. You want to fight in July? All right, let's fight in July. He knows in his head as he's saying that I don't know who you are. I'm never gonna. The odds of me fighting you are slim to none. Right? He walks away. Who's that guy? I don't know. Whatever. Darren Till's laughing it off, walking away. Not Khamzat. Not Khamzat Chimaev, man. It's a different breed of guy. In his mind, he's like, oh, you just came up and wanted to fight my friend. You came up and tried to set up something. You're trying to do something weird. I don't know what you said to me, but you said something to me originally, and then you said something to my boy. So Khamzat being Khamzat immediately goes up and tells him, let's fight now. You want to play gangster? So he immediately, hey, let's fight now. You want to fight? Let's fight now. You want to play gangster? I'm going to fuck you up. And legitimately pissed. Calls him a bitch and keeps walking away. And that was the funniest part of that clip, is just legitimately not knowing who Juaquin Buckley is. But shout out to Juaquin Buckley, man. That takes a lot of balls to walk into that lion's den. Like, you got two dudes, and he didn't, from the looks of it, Buckley was not with an entourage. He didn't have a bunch of dudes with him. It looked like it was kind of just him. I didn't really see anybody behind. Like, who's behind Buckley? There's really nobody with him. So credit to him, man. It takes some balls to walk into that lion's den and take your shot and say, hey, I want to fight you. Let's try to make something happen. He was respectful enough. Let's get money, blah, blah, blah. Khamzat don't see it that way. Khamzat's like, no. If you come up to me and say something, a fight is a fight. Don't get it twisted. Just because it's a sport, just because we get paid money for this, it's still a fight. What you just did was come up and challenge us to a fight. So Khamzat's natural response is, you want to fight? Let's fight now. Let's fight right now. You want to play gangster? I'm going to fuck you up. This just speaks volume to who Khamzat Chimaev is, man. Khamzat is not that dude. You can't come up to him. He's not going to... He doesn't look at it from a... And it's weird because he does look at it from a professional standpoint, right? I just talked to you about this video quality and the edits and stuff from his... the edits in his YouTube page and the person that's doing it and how professionally done it is. I think it just shows that Khamzat does understand the entertainment aspect of it, the advertisement aspect of it. He definitely gets it. He definitely understands it. So he is professional. But he still has that mercenary type of personality where if you come up and challenge us, so you're not challenging us to an event. You're not challenging me to a competition. You're challenging me to a fight. And if you're challenging me to a fight, let's fight now. If you're going to come up to me and fight and talk about fighting, let's fight now. I'll fuck you up and you're a bitch. And that's how Khamzat sees it. And I love it, man. This is just a type of personality that just speaks to it. And it went viral and it's everywhere. It's all over Twitter. It's all over YouTube and clips and everything. And it just speaks volumes to who Khamzat Chimaev is as a person. And he knows how to make this shit work. He knows how to keep people interested in him. He knows how to make sure that everyone understands who he is and how he can't be messed with and how he will come for your ass if you try to challenge him. He will not back down. He is all go all the time. In the middle of weight cuts, in the middle of a weigh-in ceremony, and where he's supposed to just be chilling, going back. Darren Till's laughing. Darren Till's not going to do anything wild. Darren Till's professional. What am I going to do? And Khamzat's the one to say, let's fight now. Speaks volume to who that dude is, man. And that's why people love him. Speaking of fighters who everybody loves, Tyson Fury had a huge fight this past weekend against Dillian Whyte. Commentator kept calling him Dillian Whyte, the ring announcer. Ring announcer kept mispronouncing everything, so I don't know how accurate that is. I don't want to call him Dillian because what the fuck kind of name is Dillian? I just don't like it. For our sake, let's just call you Dillian Whyte. It's why everyone calls Piotr Jan Peter Jan, right? Let's just, let's not be difficult here. So Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury, it was not as highly anticipated as possible. In my opinion, Anthony Joshua really fucked a lot of things up by losing fights to Ruiz and losing his fight to Usyk. He really messed a lot of shit up because that was supposed to be the big fight. That was supposed to be the one in England that goes bananas. That was supposed to be the 100,000+ sold out biggest pay-per-view. If Anthony Joshua could have won those fights, could have maintained his championship status and had that massive mega fight, champion versus champion against Tyson Fury, that's what was supposed to happen. And he fucked the money up and it left Tyson Fury this way. Now, he had to fight Dillian Whyte anyway. Might have happened regardless, but I think that's why, in my opinion, I could be dead ass wrong, but I think that's why Tyson Fury talks about retirement and how he really is going to retire. Because yes, Usyk is out there. Yes, Usyk would be a legit challenge for Tyson Fury. And a lot of people were talking about Usyk and saying he could be the guy to beat Tyson Fury. And I get all that. But Usyk isn't the mega pay-per-view. He's not the looks and all the things that Anthony Joshua had with him. That fan base that's carried and the peak interest that everybody has. He didn't have that Joshua had before their fight. And he didn't take it from Joshua necessarily. Sparked interest, and real boxing fans would be very, very interested in that fight. But a lot of other people aren't. So it just creates one of those scenarios for Tyson Fury where he's like, okay, I can fight Usyk, but it's not going to be bigger than Anthony Joshua would have been. It wouldn't have been more eyeballs. The media wouldn't have been as fun. The pay-per-view isn't going to be as big. If Joshua just won those fights, it would have set up a mega fight. And I think Tyson Fury would be just chomping at the bit for that last one to be against Anthony Joshua in England in an even bigger stadium, even more fans, more pay-per-views, and then walk off into the sunset as the just no questions asked greatest of the era heavyweight champion. But didn't happen that way. Fights Dylan White. Just Dylan White, love him, nowhere near the level of Tyson Fury. He just couldn't do it, man. He had to get in close. He had to be able to close distance to land some shots, and he was just unsuccessful. Started winging shots from the 4th round to 6th round, just ugly misses. Tyson Fury started toying with him a little bit, started talking to him, started unloading around round 4, and even, the KO came in round 6. From rounds 1 to 6, Tyson Fury won every single one of them, in my opinion. Dylan White didn't really have any moments. His only moments of interest were when they got into this little, these little situations in the clinch where they both were throwing shots to the back of the head. They were getting a little bit dirty. Dylan White threw a couple elbows in there. He was trying to, make it a little bit of a nasty, dirty fight. He didn't want it to stay on the outside and stay technical because obviously Tyson Fury is going to do what he did to him in that fight. But Tyson Fury sets up a beautiful uppercut, and it just shows the level that Tyson Fury's on, man. Going into the fight, everyone kept talking about Dylan White's susceptibility to the uppercut, and that right uppercut, man. Dylan White takes that right uppercut, and that's how Joshua got him. That's how, all these talks about how that's a shot that he's more susceptible to, and Tyson Fury's not throwing it early. He's just filling them out. He's just setting them up and gauging distance, and his ability to understand distance is so fucking crazy, man. And you see him set it up with a 2 jab, and then the uppercut. The jabs didn't come quick though. The jab, reset, bring him in, jab to find the distance, and then boom, just a beautiful uppercut. Takes Dylan White out, pushes him for good measure. Dylan White can't respond to the 10 count well enough. They call the fight pretty much like a one-shot KO for Tyson Fury. And now he's saying he's riding off to the sunset. Now he's saying that it's over for him. He's retired from boxing, but he's not retired from exhibitions. Why does he say that he's not retired from exhibition matches? Because there is a guy named Francis Ngannou who Tyson Fury knows he will get paid big money for a crossover fight against the UFC's heavyweight champion in Francis Ngannou. Now, Francis Ngannou has to figure some stuff out. He has the knee injury he needs to come back from. He's still wearing a brace. I think he's off of crutches now, but he's still wearing a knee brace. He's still not ready to go for a little while. So it's interesting to see what happens when Francis Ngannou gets back and how that fight takes place. Because, in my opinion, man, the UFC made it happen with Conor McGregor. They had the crossover fight with Floyd Mayweather. They made a huge chunk of change in that fight. And I think they would be willing to do it again because of the amount of money. But it catapulted Conor McGregor to a point where he was almost bigger. I'm sorry. He became bigger than the UFC. I almost made the mistake and said he almost became bigger. He's bigger than the UFC. I don't think the UFC ever wants to do that again. I think the UFC doesn't like where Conor McGregor was at post-fight. Right? He wasn't winning anymore. He's a huge draw still, and they still make a lot of money off him. Let's not be mistaken. But now you gotta pay somebody. They paid you $100 million for that fight. We gotta pay you. We gotta pay you some money now in the UFC if we want to fight here. It doesn't have to be $100 million. We can't pay you the $1 million we used to get paid. We're taking home this insane. I mean, we're cashing in an insane amount of money. We can't pay you that anymore. We gotta pay you 20s of millions, and UFC don't really want to do that. And it's one thing when they did it with Conor. who had a great relationship with Dana White, great relationship with the UFC, who they always had business with, and they have always had other business relationships in. It's another thing to do with Francis Ngannou, whose management isn't a fan of Dana White and the UFC. Dana White and the UFC, not a fan of that management. Those managements are almost rivals to the management that owns the UFC. So it becomes a conflict of interest. I don't know how the UFC would do it, and I think Francis Ngannou and his team knew that, and why the plan has kind of been become a free agent. Do it as a free agent where the UFC gets nothing. We can make it happen. And as long as I'm champion in the UFC, as long as I keep that status, that's really all I need to make sure that I get the payday. I can't lose in the UFC. If I lose to Cyril Gane, I might not be able to get that payday. But since I beat him, I can make this happen. I don't know if Francis Ngannou has redone a deal. I thought Cyril Gane was his last fight on his contract. I could be mistaken. I thought it was, and I thought that was the whole purpose of it. Let's get this last fight of the contract done. If I win it, retain the belt, then I set up a mega fight. I think the knee injury really, put some, dampered that decision and kind of messed things up for him. But that was definitely his plan for that fight to take place after he became a free agent. So if he is a free agent, if he's not under the UFC contract, you can definitely see him going over and fighting Tyson Fury next before returning to the UFC and signing that contract and saying, okay, now that I had this fight, I made X amount of millions of dollars over here. My price has now gone up for you in the UFC. And the UFC is going to have to play ball one way or another. It would be terrible if that happened and the UFC was like, we're not going to pay you like this. Have fun somewhere else. It would be terrible, man. So hopefully they figure it out. Hopefully they can do some type of cross promotion where the UFC is involved as well. They can get things done. They can make their nut. Ngannou's price goes up. He makes more money, and let's just try to make everybody happy and give us the stuff that we want. How would that fight go? Tyson Fury would beat him pretty easily, in my opinion, in a boxing match. Tyson Fury did say we could do it in the cage. We could do it with MMA gloves. Trust me, guys. He doesn't mean we could have an MMA fight. He's not going to let Francis Ngannou kick him. He's not going to let Francis Ngannou put him on the mat. He's not going to let that happen. What he means is we could do it in the cage with MMA gloves in a boxing setting. That's what he means. Which would be very, very scary for both because, listen, we understand the punching power of Francis Ngannou. Let's not be mistaken. Tyson Fury's knocking people out with those big gloves too. Tyson Fury's got some punching power. Let's not get it twisted. Let's not pretend like Tyson Fury has these pillow hands, and if you put him in UFC gloves, he can't knock people out. He sure as hell can. And then, like I said, moving forward, Font, Vera. I didn't talk too much about the NBA playoffs. I'll save that for Wednesday. We're at about 45, 46 minutes right now. So I don't want to drag it too long, and there's a lot to cover for the NBA playoffs. So I'll probably just do a big kind of recap and the status of the NBA playoffs and where the teams are at. There might be a sweep by then as the Celtics and the Nets play tonight, but I'll cover that when I get there. For now, let me go ahead and look ahead at the Rob Font and Chito Vera fight, which is surprisingly going under the radar. I don't think people really understand the magnitude of this fight, what it does at the 135-pound division, what it means for both Font and especially Chito Vera, who Chito Vera has just been scratching at that door, man. And you finally get a chance to catapult yourself a win over Rob Font. It's a big win. He lost to his last loss was to Jose Aldo. He didn't get finished. It was a decision win by Jose Aldo. But hopefully you can find a way. Maybe he wants that rematch. But he is ranked number 8. Rob Font's ranked number 5. You would have to imagine that if he beats Rob Font, that gets Chito Vera into the top 5. So it is a massive fight for Marlon Vera. I think just as big as the fight he had with Jose Aldo. So this is a must win for Chito. If he loses to Rob Font, it puts him at that place where it's like, am I always just a 5 through 10 guy? Is this my spot in the division is 5 through 10, and I'm gonna give people hell, but I can't get over the hump of those top 5 guys. We're gonna find out. Rob Font is not an easy fighter. It's gonna be interesting to see how Chito tries to go about this fight. Chito seems to be really good against certain guys. Rob Font presents different challenges, I think, than Cheeto's seen. I would expect Cheeto to throw some of those leg kicks we saw. Everyone talks about the Sean O'Malley kicks. I don't think he's gonna land a shot on his perennial nerve. I don't think he's gonna give him drop foot, but I do think that he's gonna try to set up some leg kicks and definitely use his kicks to try to slow down Rob Font, get his movement a little bit limited because Rob Font has really, really sharp boxing and he can get in and out pretty well, and Cheeto's going to try to limit that with some leg kicks early on. But it's going to be an interesting fight. Andrei Arlovski fights on this card. Andrei Arlovski and OG fights Jake Collier. Hopefully Andrei Arlovski wins this fight, man. I love Arlovski. He's been doing this for so fucking long, and he's still doing it at a pretty high level, man. He's not winning a championship anytime soon, but you can't hate on the guy who keeps doing what he's doing. Andre Philly, one of the best nicknames in the UFC. Andre Touchy Philly is going to be fighting again against Brito. This is going to be an interesting fight. I got Philly in that one. Jared Gordon against Grant Dawson. Darren Elkins. Darren Elkins just keeps doing his thing, man, against Tristan Connolly. Gerald Mearshart is back in this card. Everyone unfortunately remembers him from that nasty first round early knockout that he took to Khamzat Chimaev. Just brutal, man. I think the mystique of Khamzat really got to him in that fight. I don't know. He just got caught with a clean straight right, and out he went. Francisco Figueiredo, Figgy's brothers on this one. So not a crazy card by any means, which is I think why unfortunately this card is kind of getting looked past. It's kind of the calm before the storm, before the pay-per-view. And I say calm before the storm, and people probably laughing at me like, a lot of people don't think that the upcoming pay-per-view is typical UFC standards. A lot of people feel like it is something that isn't great. They don't think it's a great card. I disagree. There's a lot of good fights on that card, especially in the prelims, early prelims. Like there's some sneaky fights, and I'm just so freaking excited for Charles Oliveira and Justin Gaethje. Like, to be honest, I don't know, man. I guess maybe I'm just not that type of person. Like I don't get that Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira aren't like household names yet. I guess that's what it is. But to me, that fight, I'm so excited for that fight. I'm extremely biased. I want Charles Oliveira to win. I don't like the fact that people just continue to sleep on him. I'm glad that he's the favorite now. I think when it opened, he was the underdog again, which I'm just like, when are we going to stop thinking that he's the underdog? When are we going to realize that this dude's a well-rounded UFC fighter, and this quit that everyone keeps saying that he has in him hasn't really presented himself, because he could have easily quit against Michael Chandler. He could have easily quit against Dustin Poirier. He took big shots from both of them, didn't quit, and because of those big shots are why people do like Justin Gaethje in this fight. They feel like if he takes the same shots that he took from Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier, that he can't take them from Justin Gaethje, but people are forgetting how heavy-handed Michael Chandler and Dustin Poirier are. I don't know if Justin Gaethje is a bigger puncher than both of them. I don't know. Like, we've seen Justin Gaethje against both of them. We've seen Justin Gaethje get rocked against both of them. Poirier finishing Gaethje. So I don't know, man. I don't know. Those calf kicks that Gaethje throws that are super nasty are going to be really tough against Charles because he has that Muay Thai stance where he's constantly lifting that front leg and he's light on that front leg. So it's going to be interesting. Rose Namajunas and Carlos Esparza is another fight. Again, I'm just such a huge Rose fan. Rose and Charles, you put them on the same card. Those are two of my favorite fighters. I'm in it. I'm in it. Invested. Take my money. Because I'm definitely paying for it. But those two guys are my favorite. Those two people. Sorry, bros. I'm going to call you a guy. Those two fighters are two of my favorite fighters. So I don't really care about anything else. And then Michael Chandler and Tony Ferguson. Why are y'all sleeping on this card? Why are you guys acting like this card is some shit? That's wild to me. Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson. A lot of people think Tony Ferguson is done and that's it. And his career is basically over. And they're feeding him to the wolves against Michael Chandler. Let's see, man. Let's see. I'm sorry. Huh. That can't be right. That can't be right. There's no way Tony Ferguson's that big of a favorite against Michael Chandler. I thought I saw something wrong, and I thought, that Charles Oliveira. No, they're their favorite. It has Tony Ferguson as a favorite in that fight. Okay. All right. But we're going to see. That has to be wrong. That has to be wrong. Tony Ferguson cannot be that big of a favorite against Michael Chandler. That's something's got to be completely wrong there. Because a lot of people think that Tony Ferguson's getting fed to the wolves here and that his career's kind of over, man. That he's just not the guy he used to be. And he's taking a lot of damage against Justin Gaethje. The way he lost to Charles Oliveira, just kind of got dominated. I mean, he hasn't looked good in his last 3 fights, lost 3 in a row. So we'll see, but this is still a real interesting matchup to me, man, just from the name standpoint of it. Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson. How could you not love it? Shogun, who was a legend. Donald Cerrone's a legend. OSP, Joe Lowe's. Like, yeah, they're older guys. I get it, but this is kind of, just legendary names moving into the title fights. Can't be mad at it at all. Cannot be mad at it at all. Randy Brown and Chaos Williams is going to be a great fight. Randy Brown and Chaos Williams is going to be a fucking crazy fight, man. Why are we not interested in this? We have a top 15 fight in the featherweight women's division. Brandon Royval is going to be a good fight with Matt Schnell. Like, there's good fights here. I thought Tracy Cortez was on. Yes, she is. Tracy Cortez is on the early prelims, and I want to see her fight Gatto. Like, this is going to be a good card, man, just because it's not crazy stacked on the main card, and we have a bunch of just top 10 fights all over the place. Like, I get it, but we still have the 3 top fights are still peak interest for me. I can't wait for that. That's happening in 2 weeks, so we'll cover that fight a lot deeper as we get closer to it. But again, I'll cover the NBA coming Wednesday. There's some NFL news as well, so Wednesday, Friday, we'll get on it, and we'll cover that stuff. But just wanted to recap the UFC and then make sure that we talk about the upcoming fight night between Font and Vera. So thank you guys as always. Episode 51 is a wrap. Be a friend, tell a friend, share it with everybody that you can. You guys have a great Monday. Peace.